Hello everybody, good morning and welcome to the United Stands. I'm Mark Goldbridge and this is your latest Manchester United news. I'm back on a morning show as well, smash that like. Right, Amorim stunned by this issue at Manchester United. We'll be talking about what that issue is. Also, Leny Yoro in line to start against Ipswich. We'll talk about what that is. Fabrizio Romano talking about the position Man United are going for in 2025. And also, I've wrote down, Onana blow. I need your help on this. That sounds a bit wrong. But I need your help on this Onana thing because this is a little bit problematic in the sense that he might be about to miss a few games of football for Manchester United. So you might know this. I will talk about this. Onana could miss 3 games in December. We'll talk about that. And also I've wrote down Ahmad PJ. Well, it says PJ and not, there's no B there. Ahmad PJ. Oh, yes. Phil Jones talking about Ahmad. Very interesting on that as well. Okay, so we'll get into the show. Lots to talk about this morning. I hope you're doing well. Just in case you didn't know, sometimes Man United do a press conference on a Thursday. Amorim's press conference, 2 o'clock tomorrow. We will be reacting to that. So lots to get on with that. Ronnie, we're going to come back to the Onana thing in a moment, but let's hit the headline this morning. Take of this, what you think. Very interesting. So Ruben Amorim is stunned by the lack of intensity and speed in his first Man United training sessions as new head coach identifies players he already wants out. This is an article in Goal. Ruben Amorim has been left stunned by the lack of intensity shown by his Man United players in his first training session. Amorim has been left reassessing the size of the job on his hands at Manchester United after introductory training sessions. The successor to Ten Hag believes there's been a lack of intensity on the training ground as he attempts to drill his new charges to play a 3-4-3. United's biggest stars have largely been away on international duty, but Amorim is said to have been disappointed with the efforts of some of the players not picked by their countries. He was consistently encouraging them to speed things up, and the report suggests he has already identified a number of players who will not fit into his style of play. Well, what is this? Is this the reality, or is this the beginning of the bullshit that will probably surround Manchester United? I think that it's going to be very, very interesting for Man United, Amorim, and the players and the fans over the next few weeks. I'm going to sneeze. I think I'm allergic to the new setup. Anyway, so I think that what we have here is a scenario where many of us would say, if this is true, we're not surprised. Lack of intensity, lack of ability, lack of football IQ, whatever you want to call it. We've seen this for years. I mean, a lot of players have left with it, but some will remain with it as well. So I don't think it's a surprise. But what I would also say is I'm expecting this. I mean, I'm not expecting effort to mask IQ and intensity. You can come into training with a smile on your face, you can work hard for the manager, but your work hard and your footballing ability, you can't fake that. You know, you can run harder than you maybe did under Ten Hag, and you can put a smile on your face that you didn't have with Ten Hag, but you can't change your ability. You are what you are, and you can't change your intensity because you have your limitations. So we sometimes confuse that some of these players are not trying. Some of them are trying, they're just not good enough. And if they were trying but they weren't good enough, it doesn't matter how hard they try, do they? So I think these things will happen. I think this will happen. I think Amorim will identify players that don't suit his future. I think there will be players that can't live up to the expectations that Amorim has. So I do agree that that will happen. But I might surprise you here and say I don't believe the story because it's too soon for that. I think it's too soon for Amorim to be the type of manager he is. I don't think he is the sort of manager that would come in. Jose Mourinho, yes. Amorim, I don't think he's the sort of manager that comes in, has a couple of training sessions and goes, they're a load of shit, not happy with them. I don't think he would do that. So I don't believe it is the honest answer. But I think it will happen. I think it will happen. And I think what we've got here is predictive journalism who they're almost, it's a bit like a transfer when they say this is going to happen before it actually happens. So I think that to me is probably the biggest issue here. I don't actually believe it. I think that it's too soon for Amorim to even be thinking these things, and I certainly don't think it would be leaking out. But it could be a warning for what's to come on two levels. One, I think this will happen, and two, obviously, we're Manchester United, and there's always going to be that focus on Manchester United that that people want to talk about. So I think that we're going to get bullshit stories, of course. The flip side to it is a lot of the players that have trained with him this week aren't necessarily. There's no Agate, there's no Garnacho, Bruno wasn't there, there's no Martinez, there's no De Ligt, there's no Mazraoui, there's no Diallo. There's not a lot there at the moment. And some of the players are coming back from injury as well. So, I don't really believe this, and I don't think he'd be at a point where he can do that. A few people moaning about the microphone. We already know it's a new setup. I've literally only been in the new house 48 hours. It's a little bit better, but it's a different room to what I had before. It will get better. So if you don't like it, you don't have to listen, but it's a little bit of echo. It's better than it was the first night, and it will get better over the weekend. So I just want to please the community there, because some people obviously haven't tuned in for a couple of days. DJ is a new member, and he's a proud member. That's something else, DJ, but maybe your name should be B. No. Anyway, we had about 100 memberships last night. Legends, gift wars, whatever. It was amazing. So it's great to see so many mods. We need to get some more mods for Christmas. I've just given a little hint out there, but nice to see so many members in the chat. Thank you very much. Your support means so much, because it's stressful and busy at the moment. But you know what, we've got a very exciting show for you this afternoon, which isn't going to have a problem with microphones, because it's going to be in the studio, and Goldbridge might be appearing with Ricky to have a Bruno debate. So get ready for that this afternoon at 3:00. That won't have any echo. Right. Anyway, let's carry on. So yeah, give me your thoughts on that. But honestly, the lack of intensity, the lack of quality, it's coming. But I don't think it will have happened yet. I think this is an opportunistic bit of journalism, and I don't think it's actually true. But I do think it will come. I do. Patrick Lynch says, I'm not surprised by this story. It came out that Amorim wanted high-intensity players, and that was before he even took a session. They must have known this was an issue anyway. I agree, Patrick. Look, I agree that the story could be true. I agree there could be elements of truth. It just seems a bit premature to me. But ultimately, I will say it's going to happen. There is no way, if I was sat down and Sir Jim Radcliffe said, at the end of the day, Mark, if we get rid of Ten Hag, do you think that these players can play with a lot of intensity? And I'd say, you're full of shit. No, absolutely not. There's not a magic wand. It's never been the manager's fault, Sir Jim. The manager has to go. Mourinho had to go. Ollie had to go. Ten Hag had to go. But the manager's not the issue. Your squad's the issue. You can't press a button and go, Amorim plays high-intensity football. Now everybody does. That won't happen. There will be issues with these players that they can't deal with it. But it's early days, and a lot of players have been away on training international duty anyway. Talking of which, can you help me with this? I think I might bring this as a regular section on the morning show. Can you help me with this? Okay. I got sent this by Andrew, one of our members, this morning, and he said, nobody's talking about this, Mark, but Andre Onana could miss 3 games for Manchester United in December because of 2 games for Cameroon. So Cameroon are scheduled to play a game on the 20th of December and the 27th of December, which would mean we would not have Onana for the Carabao Cup against Spurs, Bournemouth at home, Wolves away, and he'd probably be back for Newcastle. So he'd miss 2 Premier League games and a Carabao Cup game. That's there. That's in writing. They're playing Central African Republic on the 20th of December, and they're playing them again on the 27th of December. So it must be a 2-legged thing for the African Nations Championship qualification second round. So I presume it's a very important game for Cameroon, but would he play in that game or will he not? I mean, nobody seems to be reporting this, and our community is amazing, and well done to Andrew for bringing it to our attention, because sometimes our news does come in from people who are actually keeping their eye on the ball. But does anybody know if Onana will play in that? Because he literally just played. He hasn't retired. He played this week for Cameroon. So I don't know whether he will be given a leave of absence and choose to play for Man United. I don't know the situation with Onana, and I don't know whether he'll be playing in that game. Obviously, the AFCON in, was it January this year or the year before, he stayed and missed the game, didn't he? So, look, by Inter time, it would have to be. If Onana's not available, it would have to be. But just one for you. I thought we might get somebody in the chat who would know a little bit more, but yeah, Cameroon have definitely got those games. So he'd miss Spurs away, Bournemouth and Wolves, 2 Premier League games as well, if he goes and plays. But it's odd how they've got those 2 games at that time, but it's a playoff. So it's an AFCON playoff, so it's an important game for Cameroon. So a bit of breaking news on the United stand for you there, brought to you by one of our members, Andrew, and we've checked it as well. Sometimes people do send bullshit in, but it is true. So very interested to see how that's going to pan out. Missing 3 games at a pretty important time, and it can be impactful. If Onana misses those games, Binder comes in, as we've seen with goalkeepers like Dubravka and Taibi in the past, and Mark Bosnich, for anyone who remembers him, going in goal for Man United does weird things. Remember when Dubravka was in goal and that pass back and he just completely misses it? The nerves, the pressure, this can cost you goals, this can cost you points. So I think it's a big issue. I guarantee it will get picked up by the mainstream pretty quickly to find out whether that's true or not. I guess we'll just have to wait and see what happens with it. But an interesting one. And they definitely have got those 2 games. Hi, Mark. What do you think Onana should do, says Freddie? I mean, I honestly don't want to disrespect the Cameroon nation. And if he chooses to play for them, I understand it. But I would hope that he stays and plays with us, because we're trying to build a consistency and some patterns of play, aren't we? But and I do worry when you change your goalkeeper, that can be quite destructive if they're nervous. So... And I haven't necessarily looked at Binder and gone, that's interesting at the moment. Hi, Mark. How are you doing? Love your show, says Willie. Thank you very much, Willie. Appreciate that. Okay, let's go back to the news. So Fabrizio Romano has been talking as well. Obviously, if you've watched the last 2 8 o'clock shows, they've been fantastic. A couple of nights ago, Branthwaite, more talks in the recent weeks to come to Manchester United, maybe in January. Man United are obsessed with Branthwaite, as we know. Last night, Alphonso Davies, really good show last night. He's a player that United are really hopeful and trying to get as well. Both left-footers. Well, Fabrizio Romano has said this morning that Manchester United will be prioritising a left-back or a left-footed player in 2025. And he mentions Kirkez at Bournemouth. Now, the interesting thing about Kirkez at Bournemouth is he's young, he's Premier League proven, but we've been linked to him for a long time. So he would be like Branthwaite. He would be another Ineos type of signing. I feel that it's an open goal from Fabrizio, of course, but obviously Man United are looking I think that what we're looking at here is a left-sided player to come into Manchester United. And the funny thing is, Fabrizio says Man United are going to go for a left-back in 2025. And he said it last night or this morning. And yet, for the last 2 8 o'clock shows, we've been talking about Branthwaite and Alphonso Davies, who are both left-footed. So in some ways, you could go, well, surprise, surprise. Altnori, says Brainiac. It really depends what we want. You know, the reason I mean, it's very interesting what Fabrizio said, but the reason I sort of wanted to not revisit it, but was to assess what he said, is that do you not think it's a little bit odd? Like if I said to you, do you want to buy Altnori or Kirkez, or do you want to buy a really attacking left winger who can also defend? I'm trying to think of somebody who fits that bill, but it really depends what's going to happen with the 3-4-3, because if you go and buy Kirkez or Altnori, are they really good going forward, or are they decent? Because the way that 3-4-3 has worked for Sporting, the wide players are very good going forward. Sometimes they're wingers, as we've said. They're disciplined to do the defensive work, but their real expertise is going forward. Now, if we go and buy a left back who is good defensively and can attack. I think that's the wrong balance. We want, like Alphonso Davies or a Trent, amazing going forward and they can defend. So it's the balance of what we want, because if you're looking at a left back who's good defensively but can attack, is that the right balance? I think we need amazing going forward but can defend. But that's if we're going to do what he did at Sporting. It doesn't necessarily mean that we are going to do that. He might go for something a little bit different. So this was what Fabrizio said. Man United have made a new left back / left wing back a priority and are working on it. Amorim wants a top left-footed player for the position. They're monitoring Kerkez. There are also other names, not just Kerkez and Alphonso Davies. So it's looking like the left wing back. I just want to bring somebody in that's really good going forward. The question I suppose I'm thinking is, if Luke Shaw could stay fit, would he be the player that could play in that position? Is he good enough to go forward? I don't necessarily think he is. I think Luke Shaw's decent going forward, but I don't think he's as good going forward as people think. Overlap, good cross, but I don't think he's take somebody on. I don't think he's, really about the intricate 1-2 plays. I think sometimes people over-egg the pudding about Luke Shaw. I've seen people this week say, if Luke Shaw could stay fit, he'd be perfect for that role. We're not looking for a left wing back. We're looking for a winger who can defend. And Alphonso Davies would suit that because he's brilliant going forward. But I don't think Luke Shaw actually going forwards. I think it becomes a back five with Luke Shaw. And what you want it to be is a 3-4-3. You want it when you're playing against... I think what people need to realise about the 3-4-3 is, if you're playing Everton away at Goodison Park and they're parking the bus, Luke Shaw's not defending. He's basically a winger. You've got your three centre-backs for that. They'll spread across and be the defence. The player is an attacker. Now, if you're playing Man City at the Etihad, yeah, you're going to need to defend. But for most of the teams, you're basically a winger. So Alphonso Davies works for me. But an attacking fullback, I need more than that. I need an Alphonso Davies or a Trent who is amazing going forward and can defend. I don't need good defender who can go forward. But it depends what Amorim wants, because he might play Diallo and Mazraoui as those wide players against Ipswich. He might not use wingers, so we'll have to wait and see. Tony Marcial says, how good and realistic would a window of Davies, Frimpong, Edison, Branthwaite and Gyökeres be? It'd be a bloody good... I tell you what. I'm clapping that. I mean, that's just took me for a moment. I'd be very happy with that. So, summer 2025, Alphonso Davies, Frimpong, Edison, Branthwaite and Gyökeres. Well, yeah, I'd be very happy with that. So you'd get two attacking wing backs. You'd get another centre-back in Branthwaite, Edison for the pivot and a striker. I mean, I'd be very, very happy with that. Whether it's realistic... Davies on a free, Frimpong 40, Edison 50, Branthwaite 50, 140. You'd need 200 million for that. I mean, 200 million would get you those five, to be fair. I mean, that's a summer transfer window I could get around. But look, we're not going to do that. You can't predict it. But I'd be on board with that. I'd be very on board with that, and it would strengthen. The most important thing is it would strengthen us in key areas. Marcus S, welcome to the members club. Thank you very much. Dan T obviously hasn't been on for a couple of days. You can find out the people who don't watch every day. He says, "What's happened to the background?" I've moved house, so I'm in the pro. This is very basic at the moment. It will change. First thing is I've got. Well, there's a lot I want to do. Although I am quite liking it, but. There's a lot that needs to be done, but we'll get moving. On that, what do you think Onana should do, says Freddie? Thank you very much for that. Thanks for the super chats that are coming in this morning. Hockey says Maguire, Lindelof and Eriksson contracts expire, freeing up funds. They free up wages, mate. It's about £500,000 a week, isn't it? Yeah. Shah says, is the Sky engineer coming today? Is he bollocks? Yeah, what a joke that was. Exciting to see rotation in the squad to keep maximum intensity, says Connor. Cyprian says the echo is gone. It's still a little bit more can be done, but I mean, bloody hell, it was like doing it in the tunnel. I've done it in the tunnel, not like that. Yeah, not like that. Yeah, it was bad a couple of nights ago. Anyway, carry on. There's more to talk about. I want to talk about what Phil Jones says about Ahmad, actually, but let's talk about Leny Yoro, because preview's coming up for you at 8 o'clock tonight. Get ready for that. But the interesting thing about Yoro is that he has been removed from a game he was meant to play last night, according to the Manchester Evening News. I think it was an under-19s game or under-21s. Might have got that mixed up. He's been removed from that as Amorim wants him involved with the first team for Ipswich. Leny Yoro is like a new signing. Leny Yoro is a new signing for a new manager. When we signed Leny Yoro, who would have predicted that his first competitive game for Man United would be under Ruben Amorim? Really interesting. It's not quite a quiz question, but it is interesting, isn't it? When Yoro signed for Man United back in July, if I'd said to you his first game will be under Ruben Amorim at Man United, people would have said, I'll have a pound on that. That's a load of rubbish. And yet it has come true. Injured for the last 3 months, injured in pre-season, of course, and injured for the last 3 months. Is he going to be playing against Ipswich at the weekend? Well, I'll talk about it more in the preview tonight, because I haven't really thought it through massively what my starting 11 would be or predicted lineup. But realistically, it just depends. It depends. Like, I think you can look at it in many ways. If Amorim doesn't want him to play for the under whatever it was last night, to me that suggests he's very close to the first team, and you would be playing that game for minutes. And if Amorim says no, it can only be one of two things for me. One, he doesn't want him to play in it because he's not quite ready yet. Or two, more likely, he doesn't want him to play in it because he thinks he doesn't need it, and he'd rather have him training the next day. Because if he plays last night, he can't train today. So I think Amorim has probably said, look, it's more valuable to me that he's training. Why is it more valuable that he's training? Because he's working on a system for Sunday. So I think that as much as it's probably unlikely, I think there is a chance he might start him, which would be very, very interesting. But we don't know what Amorim's going to do. Like, we don't know when he's going to make his subs. We don't know whether he wants to, take a risk on Yoro to get him straight in the team. And I don't mean a risk. I mean, if he's fit, he's fit. But doesn't want to feed him in, just wants to get him involved. I don't know. It's going to be really exciting. But Yoro didn't play last night, and that was on the orders of Amorim, who may have him lined up for Sunday. Gareth T, welcome to the Members Club. Thank you very much. Zion says, this room lacks the old room soul. Mate, I really don't understand why you're getting your knickers in a twist. I've moved house. I can't bring you the old room back. So if you don't want to watch, go and watch something else. Like, I get it. I liked the old room. It was fantastic. But I like the new house a lot better for reasons that you will never see. But the point is, I can't bring the old room back. So either get with it or go and watch the old videos, because it ain't coming back. Sorry about that. I've explained it. I'm not going to be explaining it anymore. Boo-hoo. I agree. The old room looked fantastic. The challenge is to get the new one up and built. But the reality is as well, is it not very similar to Amorim, who has to rebuild Man United? And you need to be patient and you need to get on board with the project, which is, I think, quite symbolic. Right, I want to talk about Phil Jones. He's been speaking about Ahmad, and this is what he had to say. He basically said that Ahmad was the player in training that he feared the most. Very good player, and always a difficult player to play against in training. Before you come in with all the Phil Jones jokes about, oh yeah, because he probably had him twisting and turning and getting him injured and all this, that, I think he was genuinely just he's doing a bit of a tour at the moment, isn't he, Phil Jones? It's all about, I think he's trying to get a job in the media, and hopefully he can stay fit. But jokes aside, I think the question generally was just like, talking about training with Man United and what were the players that sort of caught your eye. And I think that obviously Phil Jones was talking about Ahmad in the sense that in training, he's really difficult to deal with. Very good on the ball, very good technique, and really hard to defend against. Which I suppose would beg the question, if one of you geniuses hasn't already done it, why the hell didn't Erik ten Hag use more of him? I think with Ahmad, the natural conversation always drifts to the fact that why didn't we use more of him? We've seen so many clips of Ahmad in training as well. I mean, look, I'm not one for clips in training. I mean, I'll never forget that Who can remember that goal? I don't know whether he did it for Man United. You can probably Google it. Ravel Morrison from a corner volley, but he sort of does a little bit of a leg cross in midair. It's an amazing, amazing goal. I don't know whether he did it for England. I think he did get called up for an England camp, or whether he did it for Man United, but it was Ravel Morrison and it was absolutely brilliant. So goals and worldies in training happen all the time. But clearly my point is that Amad is a very, very talented player, and we see that. We saw it at the end of last season, free Amad. I thought he was very unlucky not to play in the FA Cup final. We saw it in pre-season, and we've seen it when he's been given opportunities. But for some reason, he just wasn't given that opportunity. And hopefully under Amorim, that will happen, because if he doesn't, there must be something going on. You know, you'd have to look beyond favoritism of Ten Hag and say, you know, maybe there's something going on here. But yeah, it's an interesting story, because it's just another vindication of what many of you said, to be fair, about why is Amad not playing, why is Amad not playing. And it was clear that there was people on the training ground that really appreciated him as well, not just the fans. And look, in defence of Amad, I think he's kept his mentality absolutely spot on, and he is a beacon of progression for younger players who are trying to break through. That sometimes you can work hard, you can show the footballing talent and still not get picked because a manager might not fancy you for some reason as a player. So you've got to be patient and wait, and Amad has done that. And it must have been very frustrating at times to see players that weren't playing well being picked ahead of you. But I also would say, why did he not get picked? And I think with regards to Ten Hag, why did Pellistri never get a chance? For me, I felt that I was more on the Pellistri bandwagon. I know he may not be good enough, and where is he playing now, and will he ever play for a top team? But that might be more because we stunted his development. I think there was a player in Pellistri that did something down the right-hand side that nobody's ever bloody done. He was a byline player. He would get to the byline and put a cross in, and Ten Hag didn't like him, and he didn't massively like Amad. He always preferred Anthony or Rashford or Garnacho. So I think you had to look at Ten Hag and go, what was it about Amad and Pellistri that was so different to Rashford, Anthony and Garnacho? And I think it was probably size. I think it might have just been that. It might just be that Amad and Pellistri were a little bit smaller. I don't know, but I thought both players were a bit unlucky. But we've got a new manager now. They're also selfless players as well, Glizzy. Yeah, Garnacho, Rashford, Anthony. Maybe Ten Hag wanted them to score goals. Maybe that's why I was picking them. I don't know. So yeah, very interesting on Phil Jones with that. Love United, hate the opposition. Says, congratulations on the move. Closer to the studio, perhaps. I guess we'll never know. Anyways, today's Amorim first training session with the whole squad. Bar Maguire says, love United, hate the ops. Well, I'm looking forward to the pictures coming out today, actually. I've got this show in Manchester with Ricky at 3:00 where we're going to talk about Bruno and a few other things, and Amorim. Looking forward to that. But I think I don't know whether Agate's back today and Garnacho's back today, considering Agate was playing for Uruguay about 36 hours ago. So would he really fly back and go straight into training? I thought he would be back tomorrow, but I don't know. I don't know about that. Tracy Taylor says, morning, Mark. Question, can we have Beth on more shows, please? She's amazing. Can't wait for Sunday's match. Great show as always. That is not Beth under a burner account, actually. Tracy has done super chats when Beth's been on a stream and her hands are in the air. So, no, I'm joking. I think... yeah, Beth's done a great job and is normally on the show every day and will be on the show with us at 3:00 today. Do you think Osman is on the menu, says Keel? And Jonathan Sill has gifted a membership. I think Man United want a striker, is the honest question. Answer to the question. Man United do want a striker, and I think that's what we're going to look to try and buy. Who that striker is going to be, a lot of people will go Gyökeres or Gyökeres at the moment because he is a sporting player and he was managed by our new manager. I think that we might go for a cheaper striker. I mean, Jonathan David's out of contract in the summer. Always seems to be a name that gets mentioned. But with Osman, I don't know. Look, this is the thing, isn't it, with any player, is that 18 months ago, 2 years ago, Osimhen, for me, was looking like one of the best strikers in the world. Napoli were going to win the league. Napoli looked like they were going to be very good in the Champions League 2 years ago. And now look at him. He's on loan in Turkey and nearly went to Saudi. And he's still not 27. So I don't know what happened to Osimhen. It's a warning, isn't it, I suppose. But I don't see United doing that type of a deal, because whatever's gone on with Osimhen, there's definitely been some disruption that's impacted his performance, and I think many clubs would look at that as a warning sign. So I don't think we'll go anywhere near Osimhen. Have you seen the winning team photos are back? Says Michael. Yes, I have. I don't know who pushes that. I mean, is that the head of social media? I mean, they must do really good clicks or something. But I would leave all of that. I would leave all of that. But look, it's harmless. It is harmless, and some people really like it, but I just would leave all of that. We're still 13th in the league, and we've not really done anything to shout about yet, so I don't really understand why it's back, other than jumping on the back of the positivity of a new manager, I suppose. A few people asking about Martinez. We haven't had an update on Martinez, and I think today was the day. No, he was back on Monday, so. Have we seen any pictures of Martinez training? He was meant to be back today, but he is not back today. Sorry, he was meant to be back today, but he went back early. So I don't know what the situation is with Martinez. I haven't seen any pictures with him training at the moment. The injury is some sort of back injury. Obviously, he's going to be doing absolutely everything he can to play his first game under Amorim, but he couldn't play for Argentina. So it must be worse than a knock, because you fly all the way to Argentina to be sent back. So I think it's a bit 50-50 with Martinez, but I guess we'll just have to wait and see how that builds out. One Piece G says, it's interesting that the players Ten Hag always liked shoot. It was an instruction. I think this is probably comment of the morning. Do you want the handshake, actually? Because, look, my conscience is clear when it comes to Ten Hag. Some of you will criticise it, but I never said Ten Hag out. I said I think it's got to a point where enough is enough and something's got to happen, but that was the day before he got sacked. I stuck with him. A lot of people did. Some people didn't. But he's not the manager of Man United now. And what I did say for the last few months is that he was sacking himself, some of the decisions he made. But you make a great point about our wingers, because I remember Brighton away, not last season, end of the season before. So it was the end of the season where we finished third, I think, and when we won the Carabao Cup. And in the first 20 minutes, we were all over them. But Bruno, Rashford, Anthony must have had about 5-6 shots from distance. And I was like, if I was the manager, I'd be pulling my hair out. This is probably why Ten Hag was bold, but he came to the club before that, so it obviously wasn't a factor. But I sort of looked at it and I was like, this is incredible. We are shooting from ridiculous angles, and it did continue. So I think you're probably onto something there, that it obviously did come from the manager, that he wanted his wingers to shoot, and I don't really understand it. I don't really understand why he did that, because any analyst knows that when you shoot from distance, you give possession up, and there's a 95% chance, probably more, probably 97% chance that it's not going to go in. So I never really understood it. And even if you shoot, and I understand some teams might shoot to win corners, but we were crap at them as well. So I don't really understand why we did it, which fits in with something else. I think a lot of people used to get onto Rashford's back specifically for not tracking back. You're telling me a manager can't see that? You're telling me a manager wouldn't say to Rashford, track back, and then he doesn't do it, so you sub him off and you don't pick him, and yet he kept picking him. So again, I think Ten Hag tactically didn't want Rashford to track back either. So yeah, I think both those things are probably true. Goldio says, sorry Mark, winning team photos are not harmless. They breed a culture of low expectations. Helps the United admin deny the blindingly obvious issues. Thank you, Goldio. Well, look, I don't think Man United's social media team are at fault for Man United not delivering on the pitch. But what I will say is that we did become Manchester United over the last 10 years, and the winning photo teams are symbolic of that. we would try and do winning team photos in the week when we'd lost games to try and sell shirts and build up positivity around the club. I would hope that we don't go back to doing that, because there are way better ways to brandify your club and grow your viewership without going back to winning team photos. It's lazy. And winning team photos only work if you're actually winning on the pitch and playing well. What I don't want to see is us using Amorim to build back player PR. Like, if players want to build back their PR and Man United want to help them do it, they need to play well on the pitch. Don't use Amorim as a reason to go, hey, look at us, we're here too. Yeah, we won at training. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah. I don't want that. The manager is the positivity here. The players are the reason the last manager got sacked. So stay in your corner, perform on the pitch, and stop living off the vibe of the manager. But that comes from the club itself. The club are doing that. The club's cameraman's there doing that. So I don't agree with that. I don't understand why it's happening. Win against Ipswich, then maybe we'll allow one. But as I say, I think it's quite harmless. But on a personal point, I think I'm not for it. Napoli couldn't get 100 million and were petulant. Don't pop that on Osimhen, says Spot On. Yeah, but he's not tearing up trees, mate. He hasn't been tearing up trees for 18 months. That's what I'm saying. I don't care about the politics of Napoli. Has he gone to Galatasaray and torn it up? Not really. But look, there's no doubt there's a good player there. I'm just saying I don't think Man United will do it. Dalton says, for the African Nations Championship, each country can only send players playing domestically in their own country, unlike AFCON, which has the first team. So there you go, Dalton. I think he might have solved the Onana problem. Well done, mate. So maybe we've found a problem and solved a problem, which is what this community is all about. So there is an AFCON qualifier in December on the 20th and the 27th. Cameroon are playing. Onana plays for Cameroon. He would miss 3 games for Man United. But if Dalton's correct, each country can only send players playing domestically in their own country, unlike the AFCON, which is the first team. I mean, that's unfortunate. I mean, it's nothing to do with United. That's unfortunate then, isn't it? Because if Cameroon's best players are all playing outside of Cameroon and they lose, then they don't go to the AFCON either, which wouldn't be bad for Man United either, would it? It'd be bad for Cameroon. So, yeah, interesting. Mashu says that sounds rubbish. Well, look, we'll have to wait and see. I'm sure somebody's going to look into it. Goldio, new member to the club. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Goldio. Appreciate that. Hope you're doing well. Cameroon have already qualified, says Sonny. Well, why are they playing a qualifying 2-leg then? I don't know. We're going down a bit of a hole here. Shah says, any EFC today? Not on a Thursday, mate, but I will be live in the studio with Ricky at 3 o'clock on this channel, where we've been planning this for a while. Quite a few things we want to talk about. He wants to have a bit of a Bruno debate, so it's good timing, actually. He tried to do it a couple of weeks ago, but I couldn't do it because I was busy, and I think I'm in a better position now as pro Bruno to have that chat. But you can join in that debate at 3 o'clock. Looking forward to that. I don't know what this all this AFCON stuff's all about, to be honest with you. Jim Zed says, Gyökeres owns that Pratt Osimhen, playing in the Turkish crap league. Gyökeres coming into the Premier League in the summer, says Jim. Look, we've not been linked to Osimhen for a very long time. If people are thinking about that, what striker we're going to go for. But the interesting thing about the striker situation is that whatever your thoughts are, they're all valid. If you want Osimhen, if you want Gyökeres, it matters not. They're all valid points. But the point remains, realistically, is it depends on what happens over the next 6 months. And we have got 2 strikers, well, one certainly, in Rasmus. We've also got Xerxes, and there is even talk that maybe Marcus Rashford could be used up front. Now, if 2 of those 3 are successful between now and May, that's going to massively determine what you do in the summer, and whether you would spend 60, 70 million pounds on Gyökeres when Rasmus and Rashford are scoring, or Rashford and Xerxes, or whatever like that. So the excitement to buy a striker, I get it, but it's not necessarily something that we massively need to focus in on now, because there will be time for that to happen in the future. And I think that also there is a January transfer window where we've already been linked with potentially going for a cheaper striker, which would I mean, what if we do that as well? What if we go for a cheaper striker like a Jonathan David who's out of contract in the summer? What if we go for someone like that? Well, we're not going to be buying a 60, 70 million pound striker anyway. So, and we are going to be working on a budget that's a little bit smaller, I suppose. What about Wheatley coming through as well, says David. Fair point, well made. I don't know why everyone's saying we need Gyökeres when he would be the most sought after player in the summer and we should go for a cheaper option, says Ali. You know what I think it is, Ali? I think it's Ten Hag bought a few players from Ajax. Amorim managed Sporting. Sporting player 3-4-3. The easiest bit of journalism in the world is to link Man United with every single Sporting player. We were going to get Quenda a week ago. Now we signed a new contract with a 100 million release clause. We're not getting Quenda. Now, you know, Gyökeres won't stop. That will continue until he signs for somebody else. But the reality is that we don't have to buy Sporting players. We don't have to buy any Sporting players. We might buy one, we might buy two, we might buy none. The point is, Amorim brought those players in to be his Sporting team. If our board, which we've constructed, does its job from Vival to Wilcox to Ashworth to Barada, if they do their job, Amorim will create his own Sporting players. And instead of spending 100 million euros on Quenda, there might be someone in the youth team. There might be somebody that we can get from Belgium. And I think that's what we're going to have to do. We've got to change our mindset all across that football club. And instead of spending 80 million pounds on Anthony because he played for Ten Hag at Ajax, we probably should have looked at Brazil and bought someone in for 15 million from Sao Paulo or something like that. That's how we need to think, because that's the model that Brighton have implemented so well, where your scouting saves you money. We always seem to want to go for finished articles where we pump a load of money, like 80 million to Leicester for Maguire, or 50 million to Palace for Wan-Bissaka, or 75 million for Dortmund, Sancho. And we need to stop doing that. We need to scout better and bring our own players through. But it doesn't mean we won't get Gyökeres. But what I'm saying is, it doesn't necessarily mean that we have to or that we will. And I think that's the whole point as to why we've collated and brought together such a big recruitment and management team. And I completely agree with Liam. Penny says easier for Brighton, Mark. Yeah, it is easier for Brighton. It is easier for Brighton, but I don't agree with United tax. If you go to get Casido from Ecuador, which we could have done, it was 5 million for us and it was 5 million for Brighton. We just decided not to do it. Now, the reason that works for Brighton is they bring him in, I think they loaned him out, and then they feed him in slowly. Man United, we're not set up to do that. There's no reason why we couldn't have got Casido when Ollie was here, brought him in, loaned him out to Europe, brought him back and fed him in. But we want instant gratification. We don't want a project. And I think that's something that we need to be looking at. I mean, there are players that Brighton pay 30, 40 million pounds for now. It's not always a bargain. So I think that's the way we are going to work, and I think that's what we're going to do. I don't think we want to spend over 60 million pounds on players anymore. I think we want to be sort of in that 20 to 60 million pound bracket, and as many younger players coming through as well. I think that's how we're going to work. Harvey Spector says, I'd take Ivan Toney over Gyökeres, Premier League proven. I've got no idea what's happening in the Saudi league. Are they playing at the moment? I just don't know. I don't know. I don't know what that's all about. Hugo says Gyökeres would be cheaper anyway when you take into account Tony's wages. Probably. I was very surprised Tony didn't stay in the Premier League actually, but maybe that's just I don't know. I know Beth was a big fan, wasn't she? Anyway, thanks everybody for watching. Nipan is a player to keep an eye on, Nisha. We spoke about this about a week ago. Nipan is definitely a player to keep an eye out over the next few weeks. He could be signing in January, so keep an eye out for him. Rosenberg, attacking midfielder. We've also been linked to some Salzburg players as well. Keep an eye on that, especially with Favel. In fact, keep an eye on That's Football over the next couple of days, because might have something very interesting around Salzburg going on, which we're very excited about. So get involved in that. But anyway, it's Thursday. We're back at 3 o'clock in the studio for a fan forum. Looking forward to that. Not a fan forum, me, Ricky and Beth talking through. If you've got any debates you want us to have, get in the comments, by the way, because we're definitely going to have the Bruno debate. Thanks everyone for watching. Take care, everybody. Thanks for all your support and getting involved as per usual. Nice to be back on the morning show, and I'll see you at 3. Take care. Thanks for watching.